Hello, I'm joined by Stuart Mckenzie, Managing Director of Mandiant Consulting, which is part of Google Cloud. Stuart, hello.
Hi, Darragh.
Thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure.
What do you think have been the key shifts you've seen in the threat actor behaviour, and which industries would you say are most at risk?
Yeah, so I think the way we've seen threat actors evolve over years has been in response to the work that security people have done. So you can see the improvements that we're making in our sort of like our fundamental security, because we've moved from what was the most popular initial attack vector of phishing now onto exploitation of vulnerabilities. Exploitation of vulnerabilities can be either 0 days, which is fairly uncommon, or end days. End days are vulnerabilities that haven't been patched or a patch hasn't been issued. So we see much more use of exploitation of vulnerabilities now by threat actors, and that's partly because they're exploiting. So the top 4 of the top 5 exploitation or vulnerabilities they exploited last year were vulnerabilities in edge devices. So things that are on the network edge will accept external connections. So we call that living off the edge. So we see attackers living off the edge, and these are really interesting devices because they don't generally have a lot of security tooling on them. They don't have a lot of logging. So it means that you don't necessarily know that something's gone wrong on those. So the attackers love to sit there because they can sit and have a position to sit on the network and then move in or out, laterally move into the network. And then they use basically living off the land technique. So they use tools that are already on the in the environment. So it's really hard to spot the attacker. So I think they've moved to that from phishing because we've got really good at detecting phishing. We've got good at making phishing hard. So that's how we see attackers move. The number 2 most common ways was stolen credentials, and that one does worry me, because stolen credentials means that people are able to use those credentials to log in. So it means that we don't have good multi-factor authentication in place.
Yes.
So we can get in with single factor, which is a worry that we haven't got like good FIDO2 based security everywhere. And I think we really have to push that as an important measure and make sure it's not on something like SMS based, because we've seen the recent attacks on UK retailers from groups which in public reporting is Scattered Spider. They do a lot of SIM swapping and social engineering. So we really want to move away from anything that's SIM based or phone based authentication for your 2-factor to a proper FIDO2 based. In terms of who's most commonly attacked, it's always been the same, and our M-Trends report is based on our investigations. So we do 450,000 hours of investigations a year, but it's going to be a subset of all investigations because we don't do every investigation. It's only from our observations. So we will have a bias in it, but we see financial services as the top attacked organisation, followed by consulting or kind of those kind of types of firms, followed by government and healthcare. So you can see that there's definitely a targeting of where the attackers are most interested in going after.
And in terms of the trends, are you seeing any trends around initial access techniques and dwell time? Is this something that UK defenders should really be aware of?
Yes, so dwell time's coming down, which is good.
Okay.
When I did my first M-Trends in 2016, when I first joined Mandiant, it was 99 days.
Right.
And now it's gone to 11. Last year it was 10 globally, so it's gone up 1 day, and I don't think that's significant. It doesn't really make much odds one way or the other. I think it's interesting that 57% of notification events to organisations who've been impacted by an attack come from an external party. 43% of those are from either government, law enforcement or security researchers, and then 14% of those are the attackers themselves. So we see the ransomware threat actors really keen to quickly operate and to move around the network and tell the victim, we've compromised you, and move on. The average dwell time for those events, for the ransomware events, is 6 days.
It's encouraging that it's come down so dramatically. It's a good positive. I mean, obviously there is, what more should organisations be doing? If you were to say, what's the most important steps a UK organisation or any organisation around the world should be taking?
Yeah, so I think when we look at that, where the attackers come from, or how they exploit our networks, it's exploitation of our edge devices. So making sure they're patched, and it's not it's unfortunate, right? It's not the sexy stuff of cybersecurity. It's patch management, it's vulnerability management, it's making sure that we're making it hard for the attacker, understanding what firmware we have on devices. And that's the kind of stuff that not a lot of people do, but it's really important because that really eliminates a method for the attackers to get in. So I think number one for me at the moment would be that kind of vulnerability management and patch management and understanding what type of devices you have, are they up to date? And then it would be looking at, do I have strong multi-factor authentication? Because each of these steps make it harder, and the harder we make it, the more the attacker's going to have to do something else. No attacker's ever going to end up on the machine they want to by just serendipity. They didn't just land there, so they've got to get onto a device, they've got to elevate their privileges, they've got to do some reconnaissance internally, then they've got to laterally move to get to where they want to for their action on objective. So we've got detection opportunities. So if we've got stronger authentication where we're going to see failed password attempts or people trying to log into something or odd east-west movement, that's all times where we can stop them and we can make it harder for the attackers. That's, I think, trying to eliminate and do all the basics really well. And basic hygiene is really hard to do. It sounds really simple because it's hygiene and it's basic, but it is incredibly difficult. But if organisations can get that right, then we'll see the attackers have to change. And I think that's my warning though, is that we see attackers move from phishing to exploitation of vulnerability to stolen credentials. As we get better, the attackers will change.
Yes.
So we don't have a static point where we're just trying to get to there. And if we get to there, there's nirvana and the attackers can't get in.
Yeah.
We've got to continue to monitor what the attackers are going to do and begin to expect that the attackers will change their behaviour over time as well. So I think it's good. We have continuous improvement. We're improving, but the attacks are improving as well. So let's try and get to a point where we're at least eliminating what they're doing now and move them on to something else.
It sounds like we have to be agile as those who would attack us. So.
Exactly, because they're financially motivated. So we've got two kinds of attackers. We've got APT groups, advanced persistent threats, who are nation-state threat actors. They're going to be interested in really into espionage, old school espionage. I think we've seen a slight change in some of those Chinese Nexus threat actors. So we saw Volt Typhoon much more interested in critical national infrastructure. That's kind of a bit of a change in how Chinese Nexus threat actors have previously operated. We haven't seen that necessarily that pre-positioning and long term. But we've got traditional APT groups, apart from the North Koreans. The North Koreans are really interesting because they're the only people who have targeting that ranges from Indian nuclear power plants to financially motivated crime, all by the same group. It's kind of unusual. But then we have the Fin groups, the financially motivated cyber criminals, and we track about 13 of those groups who we understand end to end what they're doing. But they're going to have a different thought process about what they're going after. So I think as we think about where the threats come from, and who's targeting us, we have to think about how they're going to operate. So I think that's where we have to really think about our threat profile, how we're defending, and thinking about who's targeting us and why, and then how do we build defences against that.
Well, Stuart, that's all been fascinating stuff, and thank you very much for those insights, man. I know Google Cloud has been a very good supporter of CyberUK over the years, and is there anything else that what makes this event? What makes you come back to this event year after year?
It's really enjoyable. It's a fun event. It's 2 intense days where we get to do a lot. We get to meet a lot of people. We just get really strong interactions with the people we meet, and we get to meet really senior people in government and really senior people in industry that you don't get elsewhere. So I think that's really the draw for me, is just the quality of the people here and the value of the conversations. I get a lot from this.
Oh, that's super. Well, look, thank you for continuing to support CyberUK.
Thank you.
And thank you for speaking to me today.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.